Can the United States hold its ground as the Brics nations shake up the global economy? Spoiler, it's unlikely. The Brics alliance, comprising Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, is rewriting the financial playbook, and the US dollar is no longer the star player. These countries are making bold moves to sidestep the dollar and create a parallel financial system. But here's the kicker. Attempts by figures like President Trump to threaten nations abandoning the dollar might actually be speeding up this transformation. Tariff warnings and economic penalties? They might sound intimidating, but they're proving to be more of a catalyst than a deterrent. Let's break it down. For decades, the US dollar has been the cornerstone of global finance, granting the US immense leverage over international trade and geopolitics. But times are changing. The dominance of the dollar is being challenged as countries look for ways to reduce their reliance on it. China and Russia have already started conducting trade in their own currencies, yuan and rubles, bypassing the dollar altogether. Even India, another key Brics member, is encouraging local currency transactions within the bloc. This growing push for de-dollarization signals a seismic shift in the global financial landscape. The US's reliance on the dollar as a tool of influence, whether through sanctions or control over trade routes, is beginning to crumble. The question now isn't whether Brics will succeed in reshaping the financial order, but how quickly they'll do it. The Brics nations are playing a calculated game, and their goal is clear: loosen the dollar's dominance over global trade. But here's the twist. Trump's tariff threats against countries moving away from the dollar might actually work against the US. Instead of scaring nations into compliance, these tactics could accelerate the shift towards alternative currencies, giving Brics even more momentum. For years, the US has wielded sanctions as a weapon, leveraging the dollar to maintain control over international trade. But this strategy has driven many countries to seek ways to escape its grip. Now the question is, could Trump's aggressive approach be the final nudge that hastens the dollar's decline? Russia certainly thinks so. As the US turns up the pressure, Russia is confident it will backfire. Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin's spokesperson, has made it clear that these threats will only deepen the resolve of countries eager to break free from dollar dependence. And it's already happening. Nations like Iran, Venezuela, and Russia, often in the crosshairs of US sanctions, are increasingly exploring alternatives, shifting trade to their national currencies. Russia and China, for instance, are leading the charge with ruble-yuan trade agreements, creating a framework that bypasses the dollar entirely. It's not just a symbolic move. It's a tangible step towards a new financial system that Brics is actively constructing. By using their local currencies for trade, Brics nations are laying the foundation for a future where the US dollar no longer reigns supreme. As this movement gains traction, the US's reliance on the dollar as a political tool could backfire spectacularly. The more countries adopt alternative trade arrangements, the more isolated the US risks becoming. The shift is already underway, and the US might soon find itself watching from the sidelines as Brics reshapes the global financial order. Russia has a clear goal: to build a financial system that doesn't revolve around the US or its dollar. Ironically, instead of slowing this transition, Trump's threats and warnings might be speeding it up, pushing the global financial landscape toward a dramatic shift that the US might not be ready for. But what's really catching attention is Brics' ambitious plan, a revolutionary payment system already taking shape. This new system isn't just a lofty idea, it's becoming a reality. Unlike US-controlled networks like SWIFT, the BRICS nations are designing a framework that bypasses the dollar altogether. Instead of using the dollar as a go-between, this system will rely on a mix of local currencies, empowering member nations to trade directly. It's a bold move, signaling a direct challenge to the dominance of the US financial system. Russia's SPFS platform and China's CIPS network are key pieces of this puzzle, offering alternatives to SWIFT and laying the foundation for this decentralized infrastructure. For Brics nations, this isn't just about convenience. It's about reclaiming financial independence and reshaping global trade. And the ripple effect? It could go far beyond Brics. Developing nations across Africa, Asia, and Latin America, many of which feel constrained by the dollar's dominance, might see this as a blueprint for breaking free. The US has long used the dollar as a tool to control global trade, impose sanctions, and dictate terms. But this era of unchecked dominance is starting to crack. Many countries in the global south are no longer content to let their economies be tethered to a system that serves US interests first. BRICS' new payment system represents more than just an alternative. It's a strategic challenge to the status quo. By creating a financial network that resists US pressures and sanctions, BRICS is building resilience and offering a vision for a more multipolar financial future. As this system gains traction, the US may find itself increasingly sidelined in a global trade environment no longer anchored to the dollar. The question is no longer if the shift will happen, it's how soon. Countries like Iran, Venezuela, and Zimbabwe have long felt the weight of US sanctions, which have left their economies struggling and restricted their ability to engage in global trade. Frustrated by these limitations, they, along with others, are exploring alternatives to the US dollar. Enter BRICS, a coalition offering a new financial model that could rewrite the rules of global commerce. This isn't just about sidestepping sanctions. It's about creating a system where developing nations can trade on equal footing, free from the influence of US policies. Moving away from the dollar allows these countries to reclaim their economic sovereignty and chart their own paths. But there's a larger vision at play here. BRICS aims to establish a financial framework that's not only independent, but also fairer for nations that have long been sidelined in global trade. The dominance of the US dollar in international finance is being challenged like never before. BRICS' efforts to create alternative payment systems and promote local currency trade agreements are gaining traction, particularly among nations in the global south. This momentum is loosening the dollar's grip on the global economy. The real question is, can the US halt this shift, or is the decline of the dollar's supremacy already underway? Signs of change are everywhere. Countries like China and Russia are advancing the use of their currencies, yuan and ruble, in international trade, reducing their reliance on the dollar. Meanwhile, the US dollar's share in global foreign exchange reserves is steadily shrinking, while the yuan is carving out a growing role in global commerce. The landscape of global finance is shifting, and the US dollar's unchallenged dominance is no longer guaranteed. BRICS is forging ahead with a groundbreaking alternative payment system, offering countries in the global south a way out of the dollar's shadow. The message is clear: the dollar isn't the only option anymore. As BRICS expands its influence and more nations explore alternatives, the US faces a sobering reality. Its financial supremacy is eroding. The question isn't whether the dollar will lose its status as the world's reserve currency, but how soon it will happen. With an increasing number of countries trading in local currencies, the US risks being sidelined, watching its grip on global finance weaken by the day. BRICS is at the forefront of this transformation, paving the way for a less dollar-dependent future. But can the US stop this momentum? Is there any way to reverse the trend of de-dollarization, or has the tipping point already been reached? What's your take? Will the US manage to counter BRICS' growing influence, or is it too late to turn back the clock? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. If you loved this video, be sure to like and subscribe.